Anyway, so what are your thoughts, Hayley, on the edge of space, where it ends? Like, does it end? Does it come back on
Yeah.
itself? What do you think?
Well, the thing is, they say that for every star that we see in the night sky, that is a universe in itself, or that is a sun. That is obviously what our sun is to us.
Solar
So
system.
yeah, sorry, so this is not a bigger word. So yeah, I believe, obviously, I understand that there's so many solar systems out there. There is no end. Obviously, I appreciate have our own solar system, and is it Andromeda, which is to the side of us, and they say in about how many billion years? I think it's maybe possibly. I think it's about 4 billion years that could potentially end up moving into our particular space or our solar system.
Andromeda's not another solar system. It's another galaxy. So like the Milky Way's our galaxy, and Andromeda's our neighboring galaxy. But yeah, in X amount of years, we'll collide and become one galaxy.
Yeah,
we'll be longer by then.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it would be catastrophic. But yeah, we can't be the only things out there. And of course, that leads to the fact that although I think that they're probably only bacteria or single-celled organisms in our universe, I definitely do think that there is more complex life and aliens out there in other universes or other galaxies, whatever word you want to use. And if anyone was to say that pyramids or anything like that were helped, or we were helped to make them by an extraterrestrial or UFO, an alien, whatever you want to call them, I think they probably come from another universe.
Because that was one of the theories about the pyramids and stuff, isn't it? It's like we didn't have the technology back then to build them and stuff.
No, and
barely have technology to build now.
But it's also interesting that the Mayan temples, which are almost on the other side of the world, have a very similar formation, and in the calligraphy or in the stuff that's written on the walls, they both tip their hat as if they both kind of mention another or draw on another being that's almost helping them. And it's interesting the parallels and the similarities between these two cultures that lived in completely different times in completely different locations. They couldn't have communicated that sort of idea. So it's really interesting.
So do you think... Sorry, Mike?
It was the Predators. You ever seen Alien vs. Predator? Got pyramids all around the world.
This guy and his movie references. So do you think it's just something that's expanding, or...
Wait, what?
I was saying to Hayley, sorry. Do you think it's something that's just expanding, or...
The great expanse.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well,
I think I read something that it constantly is.
Yeah, no, it's actually we thought originally it was slowing down, but it's actually speeding up. So the speed that the universe is expanding is getting faster. So
I guess that makes sense, because obviously the way that our universe came together was because obviously there was a big bang, there was lots of debris and rock from obviously whatever exploded, and then obviously that debris started to come together and bind and make planets and all that sort of thing. So the idea that there probably is meteorites, other sort of material out there, the idea that it could potentially form planets, circulate around a sun or a star, I think that all makes sense.
It's crazy to think that it came from like a something that's smaller than an atom, innit? That's meant to be the start, and now you look around and you see all this, and that's just nuts, right? If that's the case.
God, yeah. Especially if you're thinking it on the scale that how big the Earth is, but then obviously when you're thinking about how big the universe is,
that's nuts.
Crazy.
And it's all come from that one moment in time. That's the best theory we have at the moment. That's the best explanation that we have at the moment. Doesn't mean it'll be the same one we have in 100 years, because obviously everything always changes, and in our lifetime.
I reckon it'll be a similar explanation. I think they'll just understand it better in 100 years, because they can I can't even give my words out today, I swear to God. Like, they can monitor radiation left over from the Big Bang. So I reckon in 100 years, the theory will be similar, but they'll understand. They'll understand how it worked, or what happened better
prior to.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, in George Washington's time, so obviously you're talking around sort of late 1700s, they never knew that dinosaurs existed.
Mm.
They found sort of remains and they thought that it was a hoax,
Mm.
but they didn't understand that they ever walked the earth. So the idea that, I don't know, just over 200 years later, we have such an idea of how evolution happened and how the world's developed, who knows what could happen in another 100, 200 years.
But there is some people still today that don't believe that dinosaurs were real. But then there's still people today that think the Earth is flat. So
Yeah, there's not much hope for those people.
There's some people taking humanity forward, and there's some just holding us back. I reckon they should put all the flat earthers on a boat and get them to go sail to the edge and take some pictures of it. They'll probably just end up sailing around Antarctica about 6 times and be like, "We found the edge, but we don't know how to get there."
Well, the thing is, what's lucky about the human race is it only takes one person to drag us all forward. So you can
a small handful of people just dragging us through the mud.
It is though. Like you get the select few people that are really smart and they make huge discoveries that bring everybody forward.
You know what? I wish I was smart enough to do something like that. Or I wish I was smart enough to study like astrophysics and space and stuff. I really loved that when I was in school. I probably should have done better in school, basically. Don't quit school, kids. Stay in there and achieve your dreams.
The trick is do as best as you can at school, basically.
Learn stuff.
What do you reckon, Martin? What do you reckon is the end, or if there is no end, or
Oh, I like to watch loads of stuff about this, and it's just infinite. I reckon, quite a what I've seen is like infinite, and there's just galaxies, and there's like a web of different galaxies out there, and they all just loads of galaxies will form like a part of this web, and there's just a chain of galaxies, and there's trillions and billions of galaxies all in this infinite space, just like strung out like a web, because apparently they can see it with like super telescopes and shit, and super radio telescopes and stuff. So I think they see more like the X-rays and things like this. So yeah, there's like a cosmic web of just galaxies, trillions, and it just goes on infinite and it's slowly growing and expanding outwards.
I thought of a thing the other day, it's a bit off topic, but like essentially you're made of like stardust because everything's energy, yeah? So I was thinking like maybe actually when you pass away, what happens is your energy just goes into the universe, and that is that expansion. It's the changing of the life from a cell, i.e. a body or a host, an animal, and every time something passes from as small as an ant up to an elephant or whale, it just adds energy and adds onto the expansion of space. And maybe
that's quite a spiritualistic way of looking at it.
Well, I was just thinking, that maybe that's why it's constant expansion, because there's a constant exchange of life, and therefore instead of you like being catapulted right to the end of space, you just push out. So basically, the people at the end of space and that energy there would have been the first that came and walked. So basically, you want to see the dinosaurs, you got to get to the end of it. Do you know what I mean? That's what you got to do. You got to go right to the end.
Crazy.
That's the dinosaur energy, and then it's like as you come through. So like a tree.
It's expanding. Do you want to know why it's expanding?
Why?
It was a big bang, explosions.
No, I know.
Outwards.
Well, that's not a nice way to tell people when they die they're not going to add on to the universe. Where's the energy going?
Yeah, but what happens when you die is another podcast.
No, 1 minute, because I'm talking about space and stardust, right? Essentially, you're stardust, right? You die, your body stays, but where's your energy go?
So I like the idea of your energy going somewhere. It's this like reincarnations, I think is a cool one. Come back as something else.
Your body ends up being recycled, and it ends up either helping other plants grow. I think in India, traditionally they'll put you on a funeral pyre, burn your body, and the elements, obviously, or what comes from your burnt body ends up being great fertilizer, helps the plants grow, and it's literally the circle of life. Lion King got it right first.
But you can't.
Regardless.
Let's say that's the case, but I'm talking energy. You're not burning your energy. You're burning You're burning your rental of your Prius.
Your energy gets stuck here on Earth, and you become a ghost and start haunting my house.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the edge of space. Technically, basically, if you cut space in half, it would be like a tree. And you get the rings. Each ring will be like dinosaurs, then what came after them, and as you're getting closer, then you're getting like the humans, and then we'll start going into like cyborgs and everything like that. Like that's my little theory. Like if you pass away, you just go among the stars, isn't it?
I like that. Cool. It's nice.
Little theory of mine, but I quite like as well. Like when you're talking about the stars, when you look into space, like at night, technically you're time traveling because what you're seeing is in the past because of how long it takes to get here.
Yeah.
So essentially, like what you're looking at isn't necessarily.
And depending on which star you look at, depends on how far back you're looking.
Exactly. Yeah, it depends how far you're looking back in time, really. But essentially, looking up in the night sky is the closest to time travel that you'll get potentially at the moment.
Unless you approach the speed of light.
Or if you go and put yourself near a black hole.
Theoretically, you can travel forward in time, but it's not back. Can't go back. You can go forward.
Well, we proved it on Earth, didn't we? We proved that time acts differently at different gradients, basically. So they did a thing where they flew a plane around the world, didn't they? And they set these two precise clocks. I'll be making a bit of a hash of explaining this, but you'll be able to Google it and it'll tell you about it. But they flew a plane the whole way around the world. I think they refueled it in the sky as well. They flew it around the thing and they had these two clocks and they set them at the exact same time. And they were like precise, like these really, really high-end clocks. And when they came and they landed, the clocks were different times.
I'm just thinking of Back to the Future where he sends his dog back in time by like 1 second. Or forward in time by
whether the magnetic poles have any effects on that sort of thing or not.
Oh, you know what? They're shifting as well. We've got to be careful. Well, we ain't got to be careful. There's nothing we can do to stop it, but apparently they're shifting slowly.
So as far as it's the way that I remember it is to do with space-time.
Space-time
has that effect on time, and basically that's why if I put Martin and could hold him next to a black hole, Martin would literally look like he's in super, super slow-mo, and we would look like we're fast-forward. So if you was on a Skype call with Martin now and he was sitting next to a black hole, time would be working slower for him and faster for us.
It would literally look like I was doing this.
Literally look like he's not moving.
I think it's so much time to speak.
Say that again.
It's a heady show. I'll
so
get so
much time to
speak.
sleep. That's fucking funny. Yeah, so it's you know what always boggles me about it is like you're so used to like things having an end. Like, right, I've got a pair of trainers and they're in a box. That box is in a room. That room's in a house. That house in a road. Like it's sort of like, okay, so let's say you get to the edge of like.
It's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Fathom the actual infinity of space. Like,
because then if you do get
it's
to the
hard
end
to
of it,
picture in your head. Like
say you get to the end of it, what's it in? It's got to be in something, isn't it? Or say like it's not in something. Let's say it's expanding and expanding. What's it expanding into?
Just nothing. But there's like nothingness in between the webs of galaxies. There's just nothing in between.
Yeah, but then what's all that in?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but like, I reckon just a big. It'll be like if you were to look at it from the outside, I reckon it would look like a big ball, slowly getting bigger and bigger, like veins of light going all over it.
What do you reckon?
In just nothingness. It's just hard to like even contemplate it.
What do you reckon, H?
I genuinely think people have sent themselves to a mental asylum trying to contemplate that very thought. And I think, do you know what? We're so ridiculously small and inconsequential in comparison to the universe. So I think sometimes you just got to accept that you can never wrap your head around just how small we are in infinite mass of the universe.
So you go for a more just accept, it is what it is, don't try to think too much, don't, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I genuinely think it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like it's just, you're never going to be able to really, actually you probably can find more science about that, but let's just not get into it. You're just going to hurt your head.
It's mad, isn't it? When you think about it, though, you're just like, how does something not end? Everything that we know of really ends, or it comes to an end, or you know what I mean?
But then water's been on this planet for at least 4.5 billion years, and so far we haven't come to an end of that. So that's been like an endless resource.
If you go on that theory, look, you go on that theory. If you look, it was on Mars, and it did come to an end.
Well, don't tell you, it's still there but frozen.
Sorry, what was that?
A lot of it's still there but frozen.
Yeah.
On the ground.
No, but you
So
had it.
it comes to an end.
You
You
had
didn't
it.
have oceans.
You had it above ground, you know. But that
Still
ended.
there though.
It's still there, but it's in lesser form. So maybe the solar
I
system
think most
slows
got
down.
evaporated into space. So.
What do you reckon, H?
Well, I think it's got to be one of the things that never ends, isn't it? Like, obviously, I think on Mars, yeah, it's still there because it's frozen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, on Earth, it's one of those things that, okay, it probably will not be there forever, granted. When the sun becomes a red dwarf and starts to engulf and swell and probably destroys Earth, it will probably boil away before it actually engulfs Earth. So it will certainly leave Earth, and it won't be infinite.
Which could
it's
then
just a valuable resource, isn't it?
Which could then thaw the water on Mars, and Mars is remaining what would go as well. So that's what I mean. Like, I think everything, when you think about it, has like an end. So it's like, how does that not have an end? Like, what? I want to know, man.
It's just like nothingness. You just can't fathom how like the end of nothingness just go on for eternity. It's like, well, what? How?
So obviously they've detected waves in space. Maybe we're just in a big pond and we're just like a small microbe that we see in a pond, like in our garden.
This is what I mean. Like, what?
Or maybe we're in a big ant
we've seen
farm.
Men in Black with marbles, and the giant aliens are playing marbles
Martin,
with us.
I'm going to give you warnings for every film reference you give us. We had like 20 film references.
Cool stuff.
That one was a pretty good.
Yeah, so like we could technically be like in a pond and we're just, you know, or we could be a giant ant farm, or my weirdest one was technically we could be like a cell in a big body.
The atoms, we can be like atoms, like the stuff that makes up atoms.
Because technically, if we like, you think if we're like a cell in a big body, right? Like cells in our body, they can go corrosive and we can get cancers and things like that. And maybe that's kind of sometimes when we're destroying the planet, we're just like being a bit of a cancer on the planet. And maybe that planet is a cell in a body or a host. Like,
I always think of a little thing, like little cartoon of like us person like, oh god, I got humans on me. And then they shoot a rocket to the moon, and the moon's like, ah, God, no! And then Mars is like, ha, you stay away from me, Earth. And the rocket starts going towards Mars. He's like, no, 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 no!
Wasn't that like a cartoon? I saw that. Like a cartoon drawing, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon thing. It's like, ha, Earth's got humans.
How would you feel about that if we were just like in a pond or an ant farm or a body of a host H?
Do you know what? I think that's possible. We definitely could be. I mean, for the fact that we think that we're relatively big, the Earth's relatively big. Well, I know obviously when you're talking about in terms of the universe, it's not. But we could be absolutely minuscule in comparison to something much larger. We could be in a shoebox somewhere. Like literally, our universe could exist in a shoebox somewhere. Like it's just such a ridiculous thing to contemplate though, or talk about, because you will never know, and you can't even guess at how we are, or I can't even get my words out.
It literally, it does, doesn't it? It literally, when you start to think about it, I find that my mind just does like mind farts, like what, but then I find it interesting because I'm like, imagine like we're an ant farm, right? And let's say Earth's a little ant farm, right? And let's say in the solar system there's another ant farm. And then we bring it to the ants on our planet. Do you think the ants in like Spain know about the ants in Australia? No, they don't. They're an ant farm. They're just doing their thing. They don't know. Maybe they do know. Maybe they question. Maybe they're doing a podcast right now in their mound going, guys, are we like in a box?
I'm pretty sure ants don't have the cognitive ability to do that, but maybe. You
never know. Like, I'm just saying, but it's. I like to think about it, but at the same time, it does like fry my mind every time I think about it.
We could be like a pocket dimension in literally someone's pocket. Just like
dimension, yeah.
Can you imagine like loads of like Pokeball like things with different dimensions in it and different universes just stuck on someone's shelf, just glowing fantastically. I'm gonna make a resin one.
Would you? I'll give it to H first. Would you would you rather we're alone or we aren't alone in the universe?
I think in our universe we are alone. I think if there are organisms out there, they're more simple-celled, or they're more sort of organisms rather than intelligent life. But I do definitely think that there is intelligent life, and I think it's outside of our universe. I mean,
solar
the
system or
argument
universe?
is, pardon?
Solar system or universe?
Solar system.
Yeah.
But I did read, or I saw something, and basically it was supposed to be talking about Roswell in New Mexico, and there were lots of documents that were declassified, and someone could speak about the Roswell, or sorry, Area 51, and they were saying that obviously they have genuinely caught aliens, they have genuinely caught unidentified flying objects. And when they were looking at the aliens' ship, they found a power source on this ship which propelled it from one universe to another. This is an amazing bit of tech. And the fuel, if you like, that they used was so powerful, just so unbelievable, that potentially it could power different cities. It could basically power different different countries. But it was so intense that the government and so many different other sort of people involved wanted to keep it covered up. They didn't want to tell anyone about its infinite power, because obviously then we would end up derailing our sort of economy as we know it. Then obviously you wouldn't have any power stations, electricity, all those sorts of things. So the argument is we have had intelligent life already land on our planet and interact with us, but they're scared to tell the general public about this sort of thing because there are so many implications about how we lead our everyday lives.
It's like the whole Bob Lazar thing, isn't it? Where he works, the Bob Lazar who said he worked at Area 51, and he worked on multiple different UFO recovered crashed spaceships that would fly in a weird way and use that gravity tech.
He's the strange one because what I mean by that is his story is a strange one because a lot of the stuff that he said at the time that was seen as untrue has been seen to come true now. Has
come to light, yeah. And he's not one of these people who wants to talk about it. He generally doesn't want to talk about it, but he just wants people to know about it. So it's like he seems a lot more genuine than some nut. And then all the stuff they tried to discredit him for, he proved was true as well. So it's crazy.
Do you think if there's life out there outside of our solar system, but would they visit us or do they not visit us?
I think they probably have visited us, and I think we probably benefited from them already, but without perhaps already knowing exactly how. Perhaps with the pyramids and perhaps with other things like that. There's actually a program, Ancient Aliens, which always talks about different legends throughout history, and
I love that show.
Aliens. Yeah,
the meme with the guy all the time, like aliens.
But obviously, it could be that aliens have helped us throughout time, and we just don't know because we haven't opened ourselves up to it. But yeah, I think they do exist. I think they probably have visited Earth previously, and I think if they wanted to be aggressive, and I think if they wanted to hurt the human population, they probably could do, because it sounds like they've got quite sophisticated tech, if what we've heard about Area 51.
I think just even on the basis that if they were able to travel to us and remain undetected by the majority, then obviously they're going to way surpass us, even,
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
What do you reckon in mine? Is there life out there, and if so, are they visiting us?
There's 100% got to be life out there somewhere in some solar system. Whether it's intelligent, I don't know. But then they found this star called Tabby Star. They've nicknamed it. It's got a proper designation.
Say that again.
It's called Tabby Star.
Sounds like a boy band.
It's what they're nicknaming it. It's got an actual numbered designation, but I can't remember what it is. It's like T1868211, whatever. And half of its light is 20% of its light is obscured. But if a planet the size of Jupiter was in the way of it, it could be obscuring. Obscure 1% of the sun's light, and they want to know what it is. And some theories are thrown around that it's half like a Dyson sphere, which is like a massive structure that'd be built around a sun to harness energy. I'm like, oh, maybe it could be something to do with that.
That'd be cool if we could do that.
That's just a random space mystery that's just come up recently. But maybe I reckon they've definitely visited us in the past. They probably haven't come back because maybe they wiped themselves out or something, or maybe something happened, or maybe they're just like, there's no point, or maybe they're still monitoring us. Because have you ever heard of the black satellite?
No.
It's like basically a oddly shaped, like metallically black rock that goes around the Earth, and they can't really figure out if it's there for anything or what it's like. It gives off weird signals and shit and weird stuff. Maybe they're still monitoring us just to be like, nah, it's not worth going back.
Is that a thing, the black satellite, and it goes around Earth? Is that not the asteroid that entered the galaxy, entered the solar system? I can't remember exactly, and it was seen to be an odd shape, and because it seemed to be quite straight lined and things like that it was seen to be unnatural, common.
There is a thing like that, but this one actually orbits Earth.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it's called the black satellite. I'm just looking at pictures of it now, actually. Weirdly, but yeah, I reckon they definitely might. Well, not definitely. I reckon they may have come,
but they don't now.
Well, would you want to come to Earth now if you're an alien? Really?
But look,
I mean, if they've got the technology to come here, they've probably got the technology to monitor us and see what we're up to. Like if they come to Earth, they wouldn't be like, well, if we go to Earth now, they're literally going to just try and fight us because we're stupid people. Let's be honest. If the aliens came to Earth, we'd be like, no, come, especially the Americans. Maybe they just were helping. Maybe it's just some aliens going around helping young civilizations, just giving them a little push to get going and then see where we are. To be fair, we could be a massive experiment for aliens, and they could just be like, oh, we'll visit them in another. Say they'll go, oh, we'll go visit them every 10,000 years, see how they're getting on. That's 10,000 years ago they came, they sorted some stuff out, and another 10,000 years they'll come again and be like, hey, how you getting on? Oh God, they're doing some crazy shit. Don't go back there, man.
Or maybe you get it where maybe an alien race or other extraterrestrial life visited us, but even with their travel, like to travel into the vastness of the universe, it's not like effective to travel back upon yourself. They keep going forward.
They just don't. Yeah, maybe they're just exploring the galaxy.
Maybe they're explorers. If that could be an option.
They stopped at Earth, gave them a little help along, and then carried on their journey to explore the rest of the galaxy. And they might be still exploring the galaxy. I reckon there's probably life in our solar system though, like, but not like Terran life, like microbes. Oh yeah, I
reckon if we've got water in our lifetime, we didn't think we had much
stuff on Titan.
In our lifetime, we didn't think we'd have much water in our solar system, and now it's been seen as quite abundant, whether it's frozen or as a fluid form underground and things like that. So if in our lifetime we've found that, then
where there's water,
there's a weird signal.
One sec, Martin. Say that again, H.
Where there's water, there is life. You hit the nail on the head. So there's got to be something.
I think if you found now that the water is quite abundant, then I think it's only a matter of time before something's found, even if it's tiny.
Yeah.
Like a bit of algae or something. That's still life.
I'm pretty sure I saw a thing about they found a weird radio signal as well coming from space. But it was like weird noise radio. It wasn't like any sort of communication, but it was a weird non-organic signal, basically. So it doesn't represent anything. The space is constantly making noise, and they monitor all that jazz. It's not like it stood out from the back. Yeah, huh?
That was a movie as well.
Yeah, no, but they did generally find one as well. It stood out, like the noise stood out from the background noise as a radio signal or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Well, what you might find as well, say if we've got craft, let's say Area 51 has UFOs. Let's say that, right? What you might have found was they were travelling through our solar system, and there was some casualties. That's what we found, and then, like I say, it was just a passing through. Like if we're going to Australia, then we will pass through parts of Australia whilst there. Doesn't mean we go back. We just pass through, and there'll be some trace left of us.
they've been here, but they didn't see any point of going back. They're like, I've seen Earth. Yeah, it was all right. They're doing some weird stuff. We showed them how to build these triangular things, and they got really into it. We haven't been there better since. That was a few,
Maybe they helped us a bit whilst they were here and said, "Here's some tips and tricks. Crack on." And then they went on their way, and they were like, "Right." And then you imagine, right? There's that photo of the orangutan hunting fish.
Yeah.
Now imagine
they've got one of us, right?
You
yeah,
imagine if that essentially that animal is moving into the Stone Age, right? You imagine if we so basically the cycle could be like we are now in the technological phase, right? And we're progressing. It might get to a point where we up and leave, and they then progress into us potentially. That's another theory. And then maybe that's the cycle, and then you push off into the universe.
That would go over the thing I was saying earlier about how we were here before, and the meteor reset us all back to zero.
Or maybe we had left,
escaped, and what they're finding isn't actually crashed spaceships. It's our own crashed technology.
Maybe.
And the ancient humans were just way smarter than us. Most of them got off the planet and went into the stars or buried themselves deep and just stayed up here. But the meteorite just wiped out all technology. Sort of like when a nuke goes off, it creates an EMP and just wipes everything out.
Well, there's lots of things in history that have been found underground that we just had no idea were there.
The problem is as well, like the longer time goes by, the deeper stuff is buried. So something that was buried 100 years ago is pretty deep. Something that's buried like 100,000 years ago is really deep, and something that's buried like 100 million years ago is like ridiculously deep underground. And chances are we're probably never going to find it because it's like unless you're looking for something and you get lucky because you're like literally looking for a needle in a haystack, you'd have to try to imagine what something would be there to look in the first place.
What do you reckon, H? Do you reckon we were here before and we've left?
I think it's an interesting idea. Perhaps we've hit a black hole, and that's, like you say, why we're having the ships come up now. But there's no way you can really say, is there?
No.
It's kind of like I hate to keep doing this. Interstellar had a similar sort of theory in that.
You two in movies and programs.
I love Interstellar. That's a good movie.
Michael McConaughey is out in space and he's breaching into this unknown area, and then he's somehow connected to his bookshelf in his house. Way back on Earth.
I saw that.
Yeah, so movie. It makes you wonder that perhaps obviously there is some cosmic loop which we do not understand, because there's so much about space that we can't even wrap our heads around. So perhaps there is some black hole, perhaps there is some connection, perhaps there's a time warp there where future humans have developed and made these spaceships that have somehow found their way back to Earth. But who knows? Maybe when we die, St. Peter, he'll put us to one side and he'll tell us all these amazing facts.
Quantum entanglement, that's where quantum entanglement is like where two things on like opposite sides of the galaxy could be doing exactly the same thing at the same time because they share some sort of weird light speed connection.
Because you've also got you got the multiverse theory, haven't you? That sort of if you get to the edge of space, then let's say that universe is, say, a balloon, and then you've got space between that, and then think of another balloon, and that then is another universe which is made up of galaxies and solar systems and everything like that. So technically when you get to the end, there's just a bit more space, like there is space between planets and solar systems and galaxies, but then you get to the end of that universe and there's a bit more space, and guess what, then there's another universe.
The multiverse theory is like more like that, but then in that universe would just be like another copy of our universe, but just
so there's a few sort of theories on a multiverse theory, but the one that I saw.
Well, there's different types of multiverse theories. There's multiverse theories in like different realities, where it's like 20 different views and infinite views and infinite realities, and then the multiverse idea of like different universes in like pockets, which
there's
is
also a theory
like so like, you know what I was saying earlier about how there's like a cosmic web of like galaxies and stuff. Like the theory you're thinking of is where outside of that web of galaxies there's like a ball, and then there's space, and there's another ball of like a cosmic web of galaxies, and then other balls of different things like different universes, so kind of thing.
I would quite like the multiverse theory. I think it's quite cool. Just carries on.
I've got a cool theory about black holes as well, but
what's your theory about a black hole?
I don't think it's a hole. I don't think it's a hole at all. I think it's like an actual solid ball.
Well, it is, but it's so small. It's compacted into such a small thing. The reason it's a black hole is because the gravity is so dense in it that light can't escape.
But like, everyone thought it was whole. I was like, no, it's just a dead star.
No, it's got more mass in it than the whole. I can't remember how much. It's like ridiculous. Than on the head of an atom, basically. But because gravity is so strong there, the light can't escape, and
so it just looks black.
Looks like a hole. Yeah, looks like a hole.
It looks like a black hole.
I think my thing is as well, if we're being visited by aliens, why is no one in, like, say, Crawley seeing them? Why is it always, like, America or miles away? Like, no one's ever been down Brixton High Street and been like, saw an alien.
Oh, probably because, you wouldn't be able to see nothing with all the lights. You're always people in the middle of nowhere. Well, we saw one, didn't we?
Yeah.
What do you reckon, H?
Well, yeah, what Martin was saying, in America, you've got more vast land, so perhaps the chances of landing there would be higher than it would be landing on our little island. Light pollution will play its part. So obviously, the same way you can't see stars very well when you're in a densely packed area, probably a similar sort of thing. And yeah, who's to say that they haven't landed, and who's to say that they aren't walking among us? Who knows? But
shapeshifters.
Exactly. Don't get me started on lizard people.
There's a cool thing I saw a little while ago about it was going back to like religion, but there was like based like before the Bible. Like the Bible was made up of all these different books, and they narrowed it down like hundreds and hundreds. Well, however many years ago when they like established it. But in this older book, it was said that there was other beings that living on Earth that were from a different place. Well, the imagery sort of showed them coming on like angelic steeds or something, but from the sky, and they took a guy up. I can't remember what the friggin' name of this book is called, and they took a guy with him at the end or something. But like, some of them stayed on Earth, and they like bred with the humans, but then that's what produced giants. And the like sort of offspring of the humans and these other people became giants, but they were ridiculously aggressive and stuff. And some of them stayed here, and then some of them flew off back to wherever it was they came from. And because it was so old, the symbology they used was like angels. But like stuff like that, if it was true, would have to come from somewhere. Like the idea to someone just to make something like that. Like normally, if like someone just saw an alien, like say 3,000 years ago, someone saw an alien fly down from space, or 2,000 years ago or something, fly down from space and land, and it was vaguely human, chances are the person back then is going to go, that's an angel. Like, I've just been visited by an angel from outer space who flew down in his magic steed. So aliens could have visited us. Yeah, I've got to find out what the name of this book is, but I can't remember.
There's some drawings, isn't there? There's some drawings of things in the sky, like in fact being found in caves and stuff from like years and years and years back.
I reckon that's where most of the ideas of like religious stuff comes from, like angels and stuff like that. Like not like religious stuff as far back as Jesus. I mean, like further back than that, from like aliens and stuff, where people were saying that beings came down from the heavens. It's like all over religious texts and like ancient texts. There's things coming down from there. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go watch Ancient Aliens. That stuff is just so great. I love that show.
We have to acknowledge the idea that a lot of religions would have used hallucinogens and all different sorts of things. But you wonder whether they actually saw it or whether they were just high on something.
Yeah, this is true.
The theory was about Moses and the burning. Was it Moses and the burning bush?
Yeah.
See the one saw the burning bush? Yeah, the bush that was burnt was on fire because of the heat. It was so hot at the time, but it was one that released that chemical which creates like hallucinogens. And I can't remember what chemical it is. Joe Rogan always talks about it all the time. It's like they reckon the burn it. Basically, he was just tripping on balls when he like came up with these commandments, and it was just like, "Hey, I spoke to God, man. He told me to do this," but he wasn't. He was just high up his face.
So, what my final question to you guys before my brain explodes would be: firstly, Hayley, aliens past, present, or future? Have they been here and gone? Yeah. Have they been here and still around? They still come now and again, or have they not come yet? But we will probably at some point in the future come across another intelligent life, whether they visit.
I think that they're not mutually exclusive. I say all three. I think they. I probably think it helped with the pyramids and the Aztecs and all that sort of stuff. I think they probably have visited us since, and I think they will continue to do so in the future. Because you're not talking about one particular race. We're talking about one particular group of aliens from one particular planet, universe, whatever. This could be absolutely any organisms anyway. You know.
So you're saying, like, obviously, you could obviously if you've got different planets with different intelligent life, they could all be visiting us at different times.
Yeah, exactly.
You can sort of think of it like when back in the day when everyone was exploring Earth, and you had so many people, like Spanish go to America, and you had like English go to America, and French go to America. It'd be like that, but we're America.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're not too much like America though, because after a while, we're going to get some aliens coming and be like, "We want your planet, kill them all."
No.
And it's Independence Day.
Well, look, guys, we're going to be splitting this show for the first time into multiple episodes because it is a long one. We just wanted to bust it out a bit. I don't know about you, but my head's a little bit fried. I'm going to go play a game of COD to calm down before I go to bed. But Hayley, thank you very much for joining us again on another show. Where can they find you if they'd like to find you?
On Insta, I am Hayley LM91.
Fantastic. And mine, where can they find you if they want to find you?
They can find me at the Mighty Thor on Instagram or Thunderprops 3D as usual, because I'm always there.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks again for joining us on today's show. You can always find us on the 20 into 30 podcast. You can also find us on our Instagram and our Facebook pages. Martin and Hayley, thank you very much again for today's show. And guys, we will see you next week.
Thanks.